Hello everyone, Twisted Animatronic here, and finally, the secret of the Mimic is being revealed, exposed to us in ways hidden deep in the latest trailer. Hidden frames, messages, characters, and potentially a whole cover story we are gonna blow out in the open in today's video. Like, why do we have a body stuffed in a costume? This is pre-1983, pre-William Afton, pre-stuffing of the kids. We have the early designs for Helpy, Monty, even Music Man. But something is amiss here, and we're going to unravel all them secrets in today's video. And immediately I'd like to address something. Now, many people believe that Edwin, who was the creator of the Mimic, was simply a parallel for Henry. This is completely wrong, because now we know they're two separate characters in the game universe. So I'm sorry, parallel believers, Henry is his own entity, so is Edwin. And that's something we touched on in the past, but that's not the only thing going on here. In this trailer, we see numerous different things, with immediately it being revealed to us that Fazbear Entertainment was on the side of a van. The same van from Help Wanted 2, except there's no logo on that van in Help Wanted 2, clearly been scrubbed off. And not only that, it's clear that we're in Edwin's factory. This is confirmed to us again via the dialogue in the trailer itself.
One of our contractors, Edwin Murray, has gone missing, leaving our property abandoned in his warehouse.
But something's different here. We're going in as an employee to retrieve assets owned by Fazbear Entertainment. Now, it's pretty obvious what that is, and that is the Mimic, but here's the really odd thing. The Mimic itself wasn't owned by Fazbear Entertainment. The Mimic was built by Edwin Murray for his son, wasn't built under contract for Fazbear Entertainment. You see, if you're not aware, Edwin built the Mimic as kind of a plaything to keep his son company while Edwin would continue working on Fazbear Entertainment's assets. And in this case, he was making the endoskeletons to go into mascot costumes, the first designs for Freddy Fazbear's. So I believe Fazbear Entertainment do not own the Mimic, but they're using that as a cover story to go in and collect it. Scoop it up, if you will. Because let's face it, we all know they love scooping things. Isn't that right, Mike? And throughout the trailer, it's obvious we see all these new designs. They're obviously Edwin's designs, but done for Fazbear. We see this entire factory, all of which, funnily enough, looks precursor to Fazbear Entertainment's creations and actual infrastructure. You see, going into the office, you see the heavy doors, exactly like the FNAF restaurant office doors we see, and are renowned for. Could it be that they came from this factory's design? You know, you gotta remember, this is now 1979, pre any restaurant. Could it be that Fazbear Entertainment simply scooped up all these assets, took them for themselves, and they were never theirs to begin with? Just look at the evidence. We see an interface screen which says Helper, which looks exactly like the design for Helpy. Is that a coincidence? I think not. And the funny thing here is we know Helpy was literally working for the Mimic in Ruin, right? He was the one who was getting us to free the Mimic in Ruin. Now, funnily enough, Helper exists in 1979 and potentially could be a branch of the Mimic 01 program. Hence why when Fazbear Entertainment take Helper, repurpose it into Helpy, fast forward into the future, it's still working for the Mimic, and you help free it, obviously. Slowly but surely, things start to align, and I'm not talking just about Helpy. You see, throughout this trailer, we also see numerous cutouts, and one of these cutouts looks oddly familiar. I'm talking about an alligator in the background. Now, sure, you could say it's simply an alligator, a crocodile, if you will, but it looks suspiciously like a redesign, well, sorry, not a redesign, the original design of Monty the Gator, or potentially the alligator mask, which Andrew could have used, and even the alligator mask of Old Man Consequences. But obviously, this is all a stretch. But what isn't a stretch, though, and something which will build massively into the rest of the video, is this scene right here. Now, looking at that scene on first glance, you can't see too much, but if you turn the brightness up and look at it from a different angle, because it's shown to us also at a different angle, you notice something extremely interesting. That's right, there's a human body inside of this elephant costume. Now, this is extremely odd because there was no stuffing of any person or children prior 1983 to our knowledge, right? William Afton was the one who murdered people and stuffed them in costumes, and that tradition followed then with the animatronics. You know, throughout FNAF 1, 2, etc., they'd try and stuff you inside of a costume because they viewed you as an animatronic without a costume. But here's the thing. This isn't in a Fazbear restaurant. This isn't William Afton. This is pre any of this existing. So why is there a stuffed human being inside of a costume? Well, I think you've probably worked it out by now. And if you've seen my other theory videos, I just want to say we nailed it and called it months ago. But no one seemed to believe us. You see, coincidentally, the owner of this factory and the creation of everything in it, including the mimic, has now mysteriously disappeared. That's pretty odd considering he's left everything and a killer animatronic in his factory. That doesn't seem right. Not only that, his son was allegedly killed by being hit by a van. Now, we haven't actually got confirmation of that in the games yet, but that's come from the books. So all of a sudden, Edwin's gone missing, his son has mysteriously died by being hit by a van, and there's a killer animatronic loose in the factory. But here's the real thing. I don't think his son was hit by a van. I don't believe that to be true at all. Again, I believe that to be a cover story. I believe his son was killed and stuffed by the mimic. And why do I think that? Well, immediately we have the elephant with the human stuffed inside of it. Who is going to have done that? The mimic. Where would he have learned that behavior from? Well, that's quite obvious. We know the mimic literally is built to mimic commands, etc. And the likelihood is the mimic would have seen Edwin installing endoskeletons inside of the mascot costumes because that was his job. That's what Fazbear Entertainment employed him for. And lo and behold, the mimic copied that behavior on one of the things closest to him, and that is Edwin's son, David. And what suit did he stuff it inside of? Well, a TigerRock suit. How do I know this? Well, in Help Wanted 2, we obviously had the update and it gave us a fair few things. One of them was the first iteration we've ever seen of the TigerRock plush inside of a game. And inside of this TigerRock plush, there was flesh. And to me, why would you have flesh inside of a plushie? Well, they're trying to tell us that something was stuffed inside of a mascot TigerRock suit. And why specifically the TigerRock suit? Well, the TigerRock suit was made for the mimic. David wanted the mimic to have its own TigerRock costume. That's why the TigerRock costume is so important. And why it is a hidden frame, believe it or not, at the end of the trailer. You see, at 1 minute 16 in, at the very end of the trailer, there's a hidden frame. If you completely stop it, brighten the image up, you see the TigerRock mascot costume in full, potentially with the mimic inside of it. And not only that, an arm hanging out to the side. This was discovered by a guy called Taylor JJ on Reddit, so massive thanks for that. So it begs the question, why would Steelwell be hiding this at the end of the trailer? Because we also see this mascot costume in the trailer, roughly about 30 seconds in. So what is so special about this hidden frame at the very end? Well, obviously there's an arm in front of it, signifying again that there was other people inside of this factory. And the mimic has clearly been killing these people. I mean, there has to be people inside this factory, right? When you see the office in the trailer, it literally has documentation on the wall saying never be late. I mean, if Edwin was the only one in the factory with his son, why would you remind yourself of that? You don't. You're doing this to remind other people. Is it other employees? I mean, throughout the trailer, there are hints to show us that everything from this era, the 1979 era, builds into the overall picture of Fazbear Entertainment. And most of this technology, if not all of it, was developed by Edwin. I mean, at one point, we literally see the early rendition of a Faz wrench, where you're plugging into a terminal, which you then see Helper, who was the early rendition of Helpy. We literally see an early rendition of Monty at some point. And not even that, I haven't even got into the early rendition of Music Man. That's right, at the very end of the trailer, we obviously see a Music Man type entity with something in his mouth. That something is literally an old-fashioned music box. You know, the one which you spin and it has like a prong on the end and it hits these prongs or like little ball things and makes noises like a classic music box. Well, funny enough, Music Box / Music Man, that's where the name would have come from. Again, this is another asset stolen of Edwin Murray because he went AWOL for literally, 2 weeks? They decide they're going to steal all his assets because he's been AWOL for 2 weeks? No, this is a cover story. Now, don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean that they stole designs for Freddy and Bonnie, etc. Just simply the early renditions of the characters I talked about, although in the mural from Help Wanted 2, we clearly see the earliest renditions of Bonnie and Freddy, because it's on the stained glass window of his house / factory. We also seem to be being chased by what looks to be some type of Funtime animatronic, or the early rendition of a Funtime. This suit's name is called Dahlia, and it looks to be like some type of medical animatronic, with early renditions of faceplate technology, again, very much like the Fun Times. All of this links to the future and shows how shady Fazbear Entertainment really is. Remember that elephant I talked about earlier with the body inside of it? Well, that elephant is also the same elephant we see in the mimic's room in Ruin. obviously along with the Mimic. All of this to me proves what the secret of the Mimic was or is. I mean, it says secret, not secrets, meaning one thing. The secret of the Mimic literally is that it was the original stuffer of dead bodies, the one who had killed Edwin Murray's son, David. Edwin then beats the Mimic to a pulp, basically infusing it with all this agony and anguish, making it become the sentient being it does. I mean, this is Five Nights at Freddy's after all. But just like the other animatronics, the Mimic still retains parts of its programming and decides to kill or stuff anyone it comes into contact with in the factory. Hence why we see all these bodies stuffed inside of other costumes. That's the Mimic's doing, and the Mimic was the first. But I bet you're also wondering, how does the Mimic end up in ruin? What happens with the MXEX from the Help Wanted 2? All that was explained in previous videos, and I'm not going to go over it again here because it's kind of recycling, so I highly recommend watching them videos after this, because he'll thoroughly explain why the Mimic was taken from there, the MXEX, how it links to ruin, and believe it or not, how we had called this scenario, this stuff we've seen in the trailer, months ago. And with that, I'm shutting the door on this theory. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button and subscribe for plenty more FNAF content. There's loads on the channel, and plenty more coming up. Massive thanks to my YouTube members who are on screen now. Thank you guys, couldn't do this without you. With special mentions to Lauren and Penguin Lover 12, who's actually a twisted animatronic. And as always, stay safe out there, superstars.